Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Tiny Tiger Collective. I'm Helena, and I am so delighted to be back at home after my month-long holidays in the US, where I traveled through Los Angeles, Albuquerque, and Santa Fe on an absolutely magical family trip. I will share more about my travels and the memories that I made and all the ephemera that I collected in a different video. For now, I actually wanted to share a little extension on the video I posted a few weeks ago about my traveler's notebook collection. As you see, I have something a little bit extra to add to my collection, even though in that video I talked about how I really need to stop buying traveler's notebooks. The outpouring of support and empathy that I received on that video was one in which it impressed upon me how absolutely beautiful and magnificent this community around my YouTube channel has grown to become. I feel so blessed to be able to connect with you through these weekly videos and to hear your stories, to hear your aspirations, your passions, your ideas and inspirations. Every week, I am so touched by the generosity that each of you demonstrate with your thoughtful comments and messages, and I thank you so much. While I was traveling, I didn't have as much time to respond to comments as I thought I might have. Our days were so full. In fact, I'm pretty sure my watch clocked that I was doing about 16,000 steps every single day, aside from the days where we were stuck on an airplane flying there and back. We had jam-packed adventures where even my son was able to skip his nap most days. So we would be out and about, going to museums, eating at incredible restaurants and cafes, soaking up the vibes, and meeting people spontaneously on our travels. So, where I thought I would have all this downtime where we would come back to our hotel room, put my son down for a nap, that would give me 2 hours to respond to messages, it honestly just never happened. And most evenings we would finish dinner, we would come back, have a bath, have a shower, and I would put my son to bed at 8 o'clock. And pretty much by around 9:30, I was out like a light as well. So again, usually at home, I would have all evening in order to tend to my YouTube community, to respond to comments, to answer questions. I really just didn't have time for that at all, and it ran away from me. And I did feel like it was an opportunity to give myself a little bit of grace because I wanted to be there to make memories and not necessarily be there to record memories. And so, even my journaling in my daily toddler book about my son and our family's adventures, even that fell to the wayside a little bit. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's going to be for a separate video. While I was overseas, my dear friend Libby sent me a lovely message, and she was also traveling overseas at the same time. Now, Libby is an incredibly talented scholar and practitioner, and she is one of the very few colleagues at my university who has the requisite skills and experience to teach a intensive subject that takes a small elite group of students, flies them over to Japan, where they have daily classes and visits to Japanese companies where they get to learn about Japanese business, organizations, and management. So she happened to be undertaking one of those educational trips while I was in the US. And she very, very kindly offered to shop for Japanese stationery for me while she was on her business trip. And mind you, her itinerary was jam-packed. I thought I walked a lot on my family vacation. She was there doing back-to-back meetings, classes, and site visitations. She barely had 30 minutes to herself each day, but she so kindly took her very last day before her late night flight back home to Australia, and she went to the Nagameguro store and bought me this very special piece. Now, I was feeling a bit down on myself when I shared the video from a few weeks back where I shared my traveler's notebook collection. And I talked about how I collected limited edition and exclusive releases, and yet they sat blank because I couldn't bear to use them for anything other than something that in my head I had built up as needing to be a really, really special purpose or a really special reason. What I didn't expect was not only how compassionate and empathetic the comments on that video were, but also the incredible examples and ideas that each of you gave me about what you use your traveler's notebooks for. And that empowered me with so many different suggestions and advice around the ways in which I could make use of my books. And also, I could cut myself a little bit of slack for not spending every day writing across my 5 traveler's notebooks. Now, in my example, one of the things that I shared was that I only have traveler's notebooks in the regular sizes, so the large sizes. This is one of the special hotel limited editions that I haven't yet found a use for, but it is so incredibly special, dear to my heart, that I know that before too long, I will have a wonderful idea for this, and I love treasuring it and taking a look at it. Oh, one of you said that you do the same with one of your traveler's notebooks. I think the comment explained how they had bought their first traveler's notebook. They haven't started writing in it, but they pull it out from time to time just to touch the cover, to admire all the different charms. And I love that so much. And it really does highlight that you don't have to have a life that looks like journaling full time in order to love journals and feel that you are worthy of owning and purchasing journals. The other notebook that you've seen me talk about on this channel is this Tokyo Station edition that I purchased last year when I personally had the opportunity to go to Japan. And this one I actually do use as a little travel scrapbook for family vacations. So you bet in the coming weeks I will spend some quality time in this beautiful notebook in order to start documenting some of my experiences while traveling through the US. So, knowing that my friend Libby was going to be in Japan, I took her up on her generous offer and I asked her to purchase me my first passport size traveler's notebook. And because of her dates that she was going to be there, it coincided with the launch of the new Love and Trip edition. She had it beautifully gift wrapped for me, and I've held on to it since her and I met for brunch yesterday. And I'm going to open it with you now. This is my first experience unwrapping a gift-wrapped traveler's notebook because while I was there in Japan, although I bought 2 notebooks, the Tokyo and the Kyoto editions, it didn't feel right for me to say that it was a gift when it wasn't, right? It was just for me. And so they didn't gift wrap it for me while I was there. But on this wonderful occasion, Libby had the opportunity to say that it was a gift, and I get to experience spoiling myself. So as some of you might know, the new Love and Trip editions is the first time that Traveler's Company is launching a new color for their notebooks. I'm really excited to see how it looks in person. Oh my goodness. It's an ongoing theme on this channel where I love cats. Like if there's something with a cat on it, I will buy it. These doggies are my one exception because this is my toddler journal and my son loves dogs. This is why we've got Mr. and Mrs. Inoue in their bus management cover from Keiko Shibata. But otherwise, I am a lifelong cat lover. And that's why Yumi Kitagishi usually speaks to my heart. So let me open up this notebook. I was so excited to read all the comments from those of you who said that you also purchased this book. And I think some of those comments I did have a chance to respond to and share my mutual excitement. I love all these little details with Traveler's Factory where there's like Love and Trip and the tagline there is printed in a metallic red. And sometimes they just don't get captured on videos or photographs of the notebook, but it's part of the experience of opening up. Even this is a dark wine red. Okay, a spare elastic band. Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. And it's so much smaller than I'm used to in person. Oh, I've got double notebook. I didn't realize that. Oh, I think Libby must have picked up an extra notebook for me. I was under the impression that buying the passport size came with a notebook. That's so incredibly kind of her to do that as well. Just she probably wanted to be extra sure that I got the cat notebook that I was after. So, oh my goodness. Yeah. No, she's such a beautiful human being. And these exclusive notebooks that come with the traveler's notebooks are usually blank, which is a struggle for me because I cannot write straight. And my natural angle is to tilt my notebooks at about 45 degrees when I write. So I'm the kind of person who always needs to put like a backing sheet underneath with printed lines under so I'm able to follow a guide. But this size is just, gosh, it's just getting all of my creative juices flowing in thinking about what I could do with it. Oh my goodness. So beautiful. This is so incredibly beautiful. Thank you so much, Libby, if you're watching this. Thank you for getting that for me. So I got a couple of inserts as well because as my first passport size, I don't have any of the accessories and extras. My favorite notebook size is the dot grid. So I always try to get a dot grid refill for everyday note-taking journaling in my books. This is really lovely. Although as someone who's used to using Hobonichi and their 4mm grids, it is a little bit of a challenge. I believe this is a 5mm, so it looks really large in comparison when I'm just used to journaling every single day in Hobonichi planners. But I love the way that the larger size makes my handwriting often clearer and easier to read. And I've got the elastic bands that are very, very helpful for when I'm trying to put in multiple notebooks. And then I got one of these. I actually don't have one of these folders, craft folders, in my regular size. But I see a lot of people in the planner YouTube community use these to keep little bits of ephemera, receipts, tags, for example. And I thought, oh, this is just so functional. So I asked her to pick me up one of these as well to try out in my new passport size book. This is so incredible. So I will say, on my traveler's notebook video, when I was talking about having all of this accumulated blank notebooks and yet not really sure what to do with them, you gave me so many great ideas. I haven't had a chance to read every single comment yet, so there might yet be a few more. But some of the earliest comments talked about actually using a traveler's notebook as a museum notebook. So every time you go to a museum or maybe an art gallery, you could pick up a few brochures and start journaling or even sketching about your memories of what you saw there, what you learnt there, and some of your favorite exhibits or some of your favorite art pieces, for example. And that idea sent a jolt of electricity through me because 3 years ago, I moved away from my hometown of Sydney, Australia, to the regional city of the Gold Coast. And the Gold Coast is unmatched when it comes to natural beauty, weather, beaches, the hinterlands. It's really a stunning place to raise a child, and it's a beautiful place to be out in nature. But it's not a very vibrant or lively city when it comes to culture. And I've been really missing my museums and galleries since arriving on the Gold Coast and making this my new home. And so when some of you shared that you have a museum notebook, that really appealed to me because I now have a newfound appreciation for how important museums and galleries are to my intellectual and cultural enrichment. When I was traveling through the US, you bet that I went to as many museums as I could. And really, I saw some marvelous ones. And I've collected brochures, I've kept maps, taken photographs of my favorite exhibits. So I really have all the documentation and ephemera needed if I wanted to start a museum notebook. Another thing that I might start a notebook for is, since getting back from my holiday, I did find myself in the very fortunate position to cure my end of holiday blues by booking another holiday. And in my case, it was booking my first ever cruise. I've always thought of myself as someone who would avoid cruises like the plague. I am terribly sensitive to seasickness. And as an introvert, I thought the idea of being crushed elbow to elbow with other people or big crowds on a ship that I can't escape from would be my worst nightmare. But in our very last leg of our trip in the US, we stayed in this tiny boutique hotel in LA. And we had the opportunity to meet and mingle with a lot of our fellow guests who were very experienced cruisers. And they shared with us and even our son a lot of their stories of cruising and even on their own adventures visiting Australia. And it was in those discussions that my son asked, "What's a cruise?" And I decided to show him pictures of cruise ships. And he was so enamored with them that he started asking me to book a cruise. And I started watching videos, in particular, a lot of YouTube channels that give tips and tricks for how to make the most of cruises, but also how introverts like me could survive cruises, or the kinds of medications or remedies that we could use that would help us cope with seasickness. And I started getting really excited and inspired by these YouTube channels that once we fully got settled back at home, I bit the bullet and I booked us a 5 night Disney cruise, leaving Sydney, going to Hobart, Eden, and coming back to Sydney. And I thought 5 nights is the perfect opportunity to do a little taste test to check whether or not we really do like cruising. And I thought, you know what? I do have this lovely blue traveler's notebook from Kyoto. And why not use this as potentially a little cruising journal? So I might share things like our itinerary, our plans, little pictures of Disney. I wanted to make a little list of some of the Disney movies that I could show my son before we hop onto the cruise so that when he meets characters or goes to themed restaurants and play areas, that he might actually have an even greater appreciation for what movies all of those different themes come from. So I had this idea of potentially doing this. Online, there are a lot of people selling cruise planners, actually. And I thought, well, look, I already have so many notebooks. I can make my own cruise planner using one of the many blank notebooks that I have. So that's been an idea of mine. I don't know how this is going to go. I mean, the things you do for love. I really thought I would never be a cruiser. And then my darling son has one conversation with a wonderful couple on vacation, and I'm booking my next one already. So those are some of the ideas that I've had. And I wouldn't have this inspiration and I wouldn't have this joy in allowing myself to indulge my passion for stationery, for notebooks, for journaling, if it wasn't for this community. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for being there, for commenting on all of my pre-recorded, pre-edited, scheduled videos. If that wasn't clear, I did all of that before I left the US so that I could focus on my vacation. And even though I wasn't able to keep up with replies in the ways that I love to, like I used to take a lot of pride in being able to hop on generally within 24 hours and respond to people with the same care and attention that they showed me when they wrote their messages. I nevertheless thank all of you for being there and being so engaged, even when I wasn't responding to your comments. So I hope to spend the next few days and sometime over the weekend catching up with those comments as best as I can. And I look forward to hearing your stories about what you've been doing with your journals. If some of you have also taken the leap and bought a Love and Trip notebook, and what you think about this beautiful kind of Bordeaux wine red color. If those of you who have more experience using this passport size, what have you found being useful for the passport size? Because I also have to adjust in terms of thinking the sorts of things I take for granted as being very easy to paste into my regular size. It's going to completely overshadow these pages. So I also have to be mindful that, I can't necessarily, like stick some larger pieces of ephemera and things in here, and I have to be more selective about what things I collect or what things I have to cut down or shrink down in order to fit onto these pages. So your ideas, inspiration, advice are always very much appreciated. Thank you so much for being here in this short and sweet little video and little unboxing. Thank you to my friend Libby for being someone that I can have this experience with. One of the reasons why I took her up on this incredible opportunity to purchase this notebook in Japan in person is because those of you who might not know, it is significantly more affordable to purchase Japanese stationery in Japan. So, for example, this notebook, not including the extra accessories that I asked Libby to pick up for me, but the notebook with the cat insert is only 6,380 yen, which with a current exchange rate works out to be $69 Australian or just under 45 US dollars. By comparison, the most affordable Australian online retailer that I could find for the Love and Trip passport size was pre-selling this for $110. So it is actually almost half the price to get it in Japan. When I went to Japan, a lot of people in Japan were quite surprised to find out that this is a bit of a cult favorite outside of Japan, in Australia or in the US, and people were spending hundreds of dollars to pick up limited editions overseas. In Japan, I wouldn't say that travelers' notebooks are considered premium products at all. And they have such accessible price points, especially when you are just picking up the regular notebooks and you're not picking up the very, very special editions like Moomin that are sometimes only made available on lottery sale basis. So I feel very lucky that Australia is only a 10-hour flight from Japan and that people like my colleague Libby is able to travel to Japan quite regularly for business trips. And so it is not at all unusual to have an opportunity to pick them up in person. So that is why I treated myself to my first ever passport size traveler's notebook. But I am getting more serious about my no buy. And for the rest of this year, I'm not going to beat myself up with a stick, falling in love with beautiful new editions and new notebooks, and having the chance where a lovely friend reaches out and offer to pick something up for you while they're there. But what I do want to do is to focus on cultivating opportunities to use these books, to actually focus on loving them, even if taking my beautiful viewers example of pulling them out and spending more time loving them. Because we certainly don't want to spend money and buy notebooks, planners, journals, pens even, and use them as a way to cultivate more guilt or shame to say, you're a failure, you didn't use this book. But actually, the reason why we add these things to our lives is because they're meant to enhance our lives with pleasure and joy. So I want to cultivate more pleasure and joy and allow myself to have that, whether or not I write physically in these books. And I wouldn't have reached that place of self-compassion, acceptance, and grace if it wasn't for all of those qualities, all of those virtues that you've demonstrated in my comment section. So thank you. Libby also very kindly brought me home the latest Traveller's Times. When I went to Kyoto last March, these were all out on a table for people to take. So there would be stacks and stacks of I think like the last 4 issues were made available. And they were in both Japanese and English, so you would just pick whichever ones that you wanted. I don't know if it is the rise in tourism coupled by the really strong exchange rates for many of us traveling to Japan. But when Libby went to the Nagameguro store in Tokyo, that's their flagship Travelers Factory store, they did have to hide this behind the counter and you had to specially ask for it. And I think they, made the assumption based on Libby as an Australian to give her the English version, even though Libby is fluent in Japanese. But nevertheless, I'm not fluent in Japanese, so I am very grateful to receive this. I actually do find that it gives me wonderful ideas for how to use my notebooks as well. And at the very least, they also provide just like stunning pictures if I wanted to cut some of them out and integrate them into a collage in my books. Oh, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to coming back into my weekly video recording, commenting routines and rituals. And I can't wait to share with you more about my travels and more about how my journals helped me savor and cherish the memories of my travel. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.